Welcome to the Village of Buchanan 2025, February 25th, 2025 workshop meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. And Trustee Wheeler is on Zoom this evening. I just want everyone to know that. Okay. So we have our planner, Dave Smith here, and also our engineer, George Palmer, this evening. And the first thing we're going to have is a discussion on the M2 rezoning. So Dave, would you like to take that?
So, good evening. For the record, Dave Smith, Principal of Planning and Development Advisors, Planning Consultant to the Village of Buchanan. A couple weeks ago, you had a report that was prepared by Brian Dempsey from Provident DTS Provident Design that went through the survey results of looking at Broadway and the amount of truck traffic that's generated by the Certainteed plant along Broadway. Now, well, at the time, I'd explained that part of the reason for doing that, the village is currently in the process of rezoning the M2 district to the west of Broadway, and that includes the Certainteed property, the former Indian Point property, and the Lents Cove village property. The village has gone through the initial steps of the SEQR, which is the State Environmental Quality Review Act. You issued your notice of intent to act as lead agency. You received comments back from Westchester County, from your own planning board, and from Certainteed, none of whom objected to your board acting as lead agency to coordinate the environmental review. You have prepared an extensive zoning program for those properties. And part of what I wanted to do tonight was just to remind you and to update you as to where we are in the process. So at some point, you're going to need to schedule a public hearing on the rezoning. But at the time when you had declared yourself lead agency, the Certainteed representatives had asked for a meeting with the village to discuss the proposed zoning. So right now, the balance of the property to the west of Broadway, M2, is proposed to be rezoned waterfront development district, with the exception of the Certainteed project property. That property was proposed to have a waterfront development industrial overlay zone placed upon that property, and your board would issue a special permit as part of that. Now, one of the reasons that that zoning program was advanced was that from the very beginning of my association with the village and looking at that rezoning, I'd always heard complaints about the amount of truck traffic that was generated by that plant up and down Broadway, throughout the balance of the village. And so one of the land use zoning concepts is to create a special permit process that would evaluate, and your own code has these special permit conditions, but to create an overlay district that would land just on that property would have a special permit use, and once granted, the special permit runs in perpetuity unless the use changes. But one of the conditions is to evaluate traffic. So that was one of the reasons that we looked at that particular zoning approach. Now, after our meeting with the Certainteed, they were very hesitant about the use of a special permit being applied to their property. We had discussed that. I think that the main issue was the amount of truck traffic and the impact on the local road system, particularly here in the village of Buchanan. So that was the reason that Mr. Dempsey was retained to do a survey to evaluate the number of vehicles coming in and out, on a daily basis over the course of a week, and then extrapolating that over the course of a year. Understanding the weight limits that are used for trucks that are fully loaded, understanding the number and the volume. So that those facts were provided to the village. They were provided to Mr. Palmer, who did an evaluation of the projected cost of the maintenance for that's related to that extra activity based on the weight loads and the volume associated with that use. So that Mr. Palmer has prepared that information. We had the information, the survey data from Mr. Dempsey. So right now, there's a couple of different options that the village has before it. Right now, you have a current proposal which looks to rezone the entirety of the property, or a majority of the M2 district west of Broadway, to Waterfront Development District, with the special permit and the overlay district falling on the Certainty site. You could, if you had a meeting with and sat down with Certainty and worked through, I think, Stephanie, you called it an infrastructure agreement.
Yep.
Is that that's the term? An infrastructure agreement that basically reflects what Mr. Palmer has come up with as far as the evaluation. You could have a different zoning approach where you could simply have them rezoned or keep their existing M2 zoning district, which satisfies their concern, allows you as the village to move forward with the balance of the zoning approach for the Waterfront Development District. But there's a slight variation that if between you and Certainty come to some agreement with respect to this transportation agreement. Pardon me. It's my father. Just I'll call him back.
Do you have to speak to him?
No, no. I'll call him back. So you could keep the existing zoning, M2 zoning. And my suggestion would be, if you have this arrangement, this agreement in place, that you would keep the M2 zoning, but it would just be like an M2A, because right now the M2 district falls under the M1. So in other words, all the uses in the M2 are uses that also would be allowed in the M1. And that includes gasoline stations, auto repair major, lubrication stations. Special permit uses include sheet metal shops, lumber yards, masonry supply, commercial warehouses, self-storage. So I think the concern is that if you want to keep the gypsum manufacturing use, then you could keep the M2 zoning and just have a slight variation that's M2A, and it's just those uses that are currently permitted in the M2 district. And that, again, that allows Certainty to remain as a viable operating use under existing zoning. If there is an agreement in place with respect to the maintenance agreement, that provides some relief for the village on the wear and tear of village roads. But I think it's important, before you schedule a public hearing, to at least have another opportunity to sit down with Certainty, talk through these issues. And then, we could provide some direction to the balance of the board, and then we could properly notice the public hearing for the specific zoning approach that between you and the significant stakeholder, Certainty, have had some agreement to.
So if we do the M2A, then that would eliminate the overlay using.
Correct. You wouldn't need the overlay district, because the purpose of having an overlay is essentially to make sure that the special permit has criteria in it with respect to impacts on traffic. And essentially that's satisfied by the infrastructure agreement.
Okay. And then also as we move forward, there is also on the rest of the property, I know we're looking at waterfront, but there's also the ability to retain the nuclear, peaceful use of nuclear.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That if you want to keep the waterfront, well, under the M2, the current uses are gypsum board and then peaceful use of atomic energy. So the question, I guess, let me respond to this. So is your question that under the proposed waterfront development district, do you want to keep the peaceful use of atomic energy as a permitted use as it currently exists under the current zoning?
Would that be in the M2A? We put those two uses?
Well, the M2A is,
Since we want to keep them.
yeah, so I guess the question, again, it gets to, is there a portion of the M2 district? Let's leave
Yeah.
Certainty aside.
Okay.
The balance of the Indian Point site where you would want to have the peaceful use of atomic energy as a permitted principal use. But not, let's say not, there's the 60 acres that I think is approximately 60 acres that's on the north side of that zoning district, which you could, I think everybody has conceived of that being carved out as the waterfront development where you've got mixed use, you've got access to the water. So I think that's a kind of a subset of what you're considering if you think that that may be a viable use in the future.
I think where that would be is the existing area that's currently, and I know they're planning on 2040 to be completed, but there'll be buildings and different things that come down along the way. And the SMRs will not be going active until 5 or 6 years from now. But that's going to be a little more difficult reuse of the property in that area. So if it's going to be SMRs or any other nuclear at that point or energy producing, it would most likely
The
still
SMRs, the
small
small
modular
modular, right,
reactors.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So
that
you
would have the
could,
potential there.
as part of the your discussions with Certainty, we could also take a look at whether you reserve a portion of the M2 for the peaceful use of atomic energy with these SMRs.
I think we should.
And then, you could always in the future, you could rezone that portion to the balance of the waterfront district. But this way, it would at least put in place the mechanism for the village to allow for certain portions of that site to develop as you contemplated with this mixed use development, access to the water. So that's something that we would want to I'll take a closer look at what makes more sense. And if you have some input from Holtec at some point, if they have certain portions of the site that they think make the most sense. And it's probably clear, it's probably that one piece where you've got most of the infrastructure that's already in place, even though they're dismantling it as we speak, but that may make the most sense to keep it there for the time being.
Because a lot of the other property, the 60 acres, and then if you go next to Certainty, a lot of that is like virgin land, especially the north area. Well, where the other building is next to Certainty, not so
Right.
much. There are some other issues have cropped up there. So
So you, as a zoning approach, you could leave the Certainty property as a kind of this M2A and also this other piece, so that it's just limited to peaceful use of atomic energy and the gypsum manufacturing.
okay. And then as we're going forward too, I think we need to look at the other things that are allowed in there, like gas stations and
Well, if you do this zoning approach with the color, the M2A, then you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
right,
because-
for that area.
For
Yeah.
that area, right.
Okay, yeah, but I'm saying for the rest of the property. So, I mean, this is a big undertaking, doing the rezoning. So as we go through, we'll address the different things.
So your kind of next steps is to re-engage with, my suggestion would be to re-engage with Certainty.
Okay.
So David, just to reiterate, in that M2A would be just the two uses of peaceful atomic energy and drywall
Gypsum board
manufacturing.
manufacturing, correct.
Gypsum board.
Right.
Okay.
It's exactly what's there now.
And then the rest of M2 would remain the way it is.
For the balance of the village?
No, excluding the 60 acres. that we
Right.
just started.
Yeah, well, then.
That's what I
yeah,
meant.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, then the balance of the property on the west side of Broadway, right, would be this waterfront development district,
Okay.
with the exception potentially of kind of the core piece of the former Indian Point site.
Mhm.
And then also you want to keep in mind the training building. That is the entrance, Unit 3, which is close to Certainteed. I don't know if that's appropriate to have housing there. So we kind of really need to look at that. That's the one that has the separate entrance.
Mhm.
That's the one Holtec had mentioned something about what was that now?
Center.
The data center, which I understand currently they're looking into. They're not sure if there's enough power to power that. Then there's
Surprising.
also I just hope we have enough power to do the development on the waterfront. I'm not sure where we are there. But so that might be a sticking point. And then the other sticking point is if the board wants to see something like that there. So
Right, well, that's kind of the point of going through the zoning exercise. If you want to, if you don't want to see a data center.
yeah, I couldn't think of data center.
Yeah,
Thank
If
you.
you don't want to, if you don't want to see, then you rezone it for what you would like to see there.
Mhm.
I think that's the concept,
Mhm.
right?
David, we originally hired you a long time ago, brought you in, and we've been going back and forth. And we originally brought you in for the rezoning, and we have not nailed anything down yet. And we've been going back and forth. I don't even know when Certainty was incorporated into the zoning. It was never even brought up to me or anybody in this board. I don't know how it was incorporated anyway. As far as the zoning, are we ever going to nail anything down where we are going to stick to the original scope that you were hired for?
Well, that's part of the process.
I know, but it keeps changing,
Well,
and it's
Well-
not that they're changing the land. The land's still the same as it
That's
always
right.
been.
Right. And
But the
well,
scope should be exactly what the scope is, and it shouldn't be fixated on this or that. It should be what we hired you for.
okay. Well, I think the issue is that we tried to address it by having the special permit in
Now,
place.
I'm not talking about Certainty. I'm talking about, we hired you for 260 acres originally.
Yeah.
That was what we brought you in for. We still haven't nailed down a zoning plan yet.
Well, actually, we have nailed down a zoning approach.
Approach.
Yeah. But
This has been going on for over 2 years now.
I understand. Yes.
but I
but
think
this-
what's held us up is the Certainteed piece. And we were waiting
But that wasn't
for,
part of the original plan.
well, sometimes the plan, we don't go in a straight path because sometimes things come up
Oh, is
and
that
then
what
you have.
happens?
Well,
Well,
yeah, because sometimes
Anthony,
you have to address
I think
different
part of the
things,
problem
that's
is that it's not a problem. Part of the issue is that Certainty has certain land use rights. They've been there for a
But
number
this
of
has
years.
never been originally anything to do with Certainty. They have been there for as long as I've been here, and they will be there for as long as I'm gone. And we know the land that's in transition is the Holtec property, not the
Correct.
Certainty property. So why is this fixation on the Certainty property? And why are we trying to even rezone that? I get the use of the roads and everything. I think that
Well,
originally we decided to meet with them. They did a traffic survey. We did a traffic survey. And then we're supposed to meet with them again. I don't even know why you're here tonight.
I'm here to explain the zoning approach and what's been happening since we began. Now, you could
I'm
simply,
done wasting time. That's what I'm saying.
then you could simply take the waterfront development district, apply it to all the property on the west side of Broadway, and be done with it.
Is that what we hired you for?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we were addressing that for the whole M2. And then, as we were discussing tonight, there should be a section left for peaceful use of atomic energy. Like you said before, it could be changed. Maybe 5 years down the road, that doesn't work for that property. So then another board will change that. But I think looking at the whole picture is appropriate. I think the reason why we got into the Certainty situation is because the impact on our roads. And then we wanted to look at how best to I don't know if the word I want to say is protect the village, to relook at specifically their zoning. Nobody's looking to hurt Certainty. They're a big employer. They're, they've, our largest business now. Before it was Holtec, was Entergy. Now they're our largest business here in the village. And we'd like to see them continued. And we hope that they prosper. But I think I think what you came up with, David, with the M2A, I think that is a very good solution. Because what this board, I don't think wants, or any of the residents want, is that there's 40 acres of Certainty there. We don't want them to start expanding also into the Holtec property, and then suddenly you have 60 acres of sheetrock on the front, on the waterfront. We want to start developing and being able to use the waterfront for future generations. Remember, it's over 60 years.
That's why you zone just the whole tech property, so they can't do that, right?
Well, now that would stop that because of what his thought was tonight. Now, this is the first I'm hearing the M2A, which I think
But
is a
it's
great
basically the same operation
resolution.
as they have now.
Yeah, nobody's looking to hurt them, so they'll be zoned in an M2A and continue as
The
usual.
original concept was this waterfront development district applied to the entirety of the M2, which would make Certainty a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming use, which they were very adamant that they did not want to be rezoned that way, because if something happens to the plant, because you're pre-existing non-conforming, there are specific limitations on what you can do to rebuild that plant under zoning. And so that's why we took a different approach in response to and trying to be responsive to their concerns. And that's why we came up with the overlay with the special permit. Again, we met with them back in October, and they were uncomfortable with the overlay. They wanted to be left as an existing use under the M2 district. But we both agreed, when we sat down in the meeting, we agreed, well, we have to understand what the impacts are to the village. That was the whole point of going through and looking at kind of the special permit approach. And I think my role, while it's taken a long time, Anthony, part of what I'm trying to do is to protect the village. And that means, if there are impacts on the local road system, then somebody needs to provide their fair share, but also at the same time to recognize that that operation has a significant impact on the village, and you don't want to see it go away. You've had enough issues with oversight that has removed a major employer and revenue generator for the village. I think the village has been trying to react to that. You've got a couple of different developments in town that, try and promote additional development and tax revenue and fiscal positive projects. So that's,
That we've been crucified for.
well,
Yeah.
That's a horse of a different color.
yeah, but listen,
So
we'll see it in
that's
the
why
end,
I'm
but
saying you're trying to go in a direction here that we want to go in. We want to go in a
yes.
direction. And I do appreciate the fact that, you have brought us to the table with Certainty for an agreement to take place. Okay. But, we should have done this a long time ago. I've been hearing about the impact on this road for years. And we should have took it upon ourselves to take care of it a long time ago.
Oh.
But I appreciate your diligence in getting it done for us.
So the study was critical for us to.
yeah,
to
it
do.
was absolutely critical to know the facts, so that when you sit down, right, you're in a position where these are the facts that we have. This is what's known. This is the existing conditions. And so you're in a position where you have an advantage with respect to controlling the discussion.
Yeah, so what's going to happen with that? We have a study, we have the results, now what?
So again, my suggestion is you
Reaching
re-engage
out
with certainty. You have the facts, say, listen, this is what our studies show. And you can either enter into a infrastructure agreement
Community benefit agreement.
or community benefit agreement, something along those lines, or the village could, if you wanted, you could do the special permit. That allows you an opportunity, again, to revisit the traffic issue and the ability to capture some mitigation. You could rezone the entire property to waterfront development. And then, that was the original option, but
In your
Yeah.
opinion, what would be the best route to take?
again, I think having an opportunity to sit down with certainty as a major property owner and a stakeholder, allow your village representatives to talk and discuss, see if you can come up with a mutually agreeable solution. And then you could, then all right, our next steps are going to be, it's either the M2A concept, which is something that I would suggest with the
Yeah.
balance of the property being waterfront development. And then we could take a look at expanding this M2A to also include a portion of the former Indian Point site.
All right,
That
but
may-
when we get into the discussion of talking to certainty, I'd
Mhm.
like to go into executive session this evening
Mhm.
for negotiations, to have that conversation.
Okay.
With David?
I don't
Is that what
think,
You're asking, okay.
yeah, I
You
think
were
we're
asking
good.
him
Yeah, I
something.
think
Yeah.
we're okay, David. I
Yeah.
think we have all the facts from the
Yeah.
trucks and all that
Listen,
information.
I'm
think
sure
we can,
that somebody
discuss it.
from Certainty is probably watching right now, and if they have a very capable attorney and land use planner, so they're going to understand the concepts that I've laid out here.
Yeah.
There's no big secret. You're doing everything in full transparency. But again, I think you should have an opportunity to sit down with them, just like you did several months ago, to talk through the issues. So, and then that'll give us and you more direction as to the next steps, the immediate next steps. Once you have that direction, then you can schedule a public hearing. And we can circulate that to all the interested and involved agencies. You hold the public hearing, and then it's up to you. You could close the public hearing and adopt. You have to finish the environmental review process. That's just preparing a determination of significance under seeker, and then you could adopt the zoning program.
Mhm.
And you could do that again if you have some agreement with certainty. You could complete the balance of the next steps within 2 or 3 months of scheduling the public hearing.
Mayor, if I may, the other
Yeah,
thing we want to
sure.
discuss as part of the rezoning is the zoning board meeting that we had the other night. So, we talked about, the lot coverage and the mix,
M1,
and the M1 and probably both M1 and M2,
not mixed use. They want
office
offices.
space.
Office.
So the idea was during the zoning board meeting, there was a business that had an office with a residential use, which is not allowed in the zone. So we talked about only the village board can do a text amendment to allow an office space with an apartment above it.
In the M1.
In the M1. And then also during the discussion was the lot coverage, we increased the overlay district to 70%, but in the M1 and M2 district, it's only limited to 50%. So we thought it might only be fair to increase both to 70% to be consistent. So
With the overlay district.
with the
yeah.
overlay district. So
Yeah.
Dave was here to discuss that too. See, if you want to go in that direction, what would be the process for that as well?
Was this an idea from the zoning board or from
Yes.
David?
No, it's the zoning
For the
board.
zoning board.
So it could be something as simple as just an amendment to your schedule of regulations
Yes.
to amend the coverage requirements. The issue of the office use and mixed use in the M1 or the M2, I'd want to take a little bit closer look at, because do you have other properties where you may have the same situation, I think? The WIC building is zoned M1,
Mm-hmm.
and there are offices in that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, the office we're talking about, the office we're talking about principal use for their business. The office, the WIC is a totally separate situation. that we're
yeah,
talking
no,
about.
I
And we
I
have that as
understand that.
accessory in every other, all the way up to the M1. Offices are allowed in the Rs and the Cs.
Okay.
Incidental to a business. if you're
Right.
running.
Right.
Correct.
So,
But
yeah,
having a separate office that's not incidental to, the primary
zoning board was not-
business.
The zoning board was not considering that.
no.
Okay.
It's one office incidental to the business they're running there.
Correct.
Okay,
Because it's in the M1, they're running a, whatever what do they do?
Auto repair shop.
Auto repair.
I need an
And so they have a
office.
billing office.
Mhm.
right.
And that's what they're looking to do, incidental to that use. I mean, we were really clear that, you can't rent it out to dental.
Correct.
Gonna be-
Yeah, I guess that's where I want to take a closer look at.
Yep.
Okay,
how that would be worded, because the last thing I think you want is to
Correct.
create a situation where you're creating additional non-conforming uses
That's
in the
correct.
balance of the.
That's why I
M1
want to
and
make an
M2.
accessory use, because right now it's a non-conforming use,
Right,
because they've
Yeah.
got people in there.
Yeah.
So we're trying to,
That's exactly what the zoning board was figuring out.
yeah.
It had to be with the principal use of the offices.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if the board is okay to consider that, you can make up some language and get it to the board for
Yeah.
consideration.
and call me if you have any. I was
Of
at the
course.
meeting.
okay,
All right, perfect.
all right.
Any other questions for Dave on M2, M1?
Eileen.
Does that M2A prohibit certainty from leasing out property like it wanted to do for the BES?
The battery storage?
Well,
That's not allowed in the zone.
that's not
There
allowed.
won't be a use allowed.
It's not a
Well, it might
permissible
not be
use.
the use, but are they allowed to in that M2A
No,
to lease out any
not,
land?
well, that, you may need to get an interpretation from your building inspector, but my read of the code is that a battery energy storage system is not a permitted use in the M2. And it wouldn't be permitted in the
M2A.
M2A because we're keeping all those uses. All we're saying is that you don't have the M1 uses that would be permitted in the M2 district.
Okay, so, but if there was something else that was allowed, they could lease it out?
Only if but the only uses that
Sheetrock.
were contemplated is
Is
sheetrock or
sheetrock
the
and-
or the
and-
peaceful
and
use of
Right.
atomic
Peaceful
energy.
it.
atomic energy.
That's it.
Only those
Yeah.
two uses.
All right, okay.
Should we separate the M2A out of, I'm just asking a question, and M2B for the nuclear? Should we have a separate, or do you think it's okay to keep the M2A for both those parcels?
Well, that's a good question because if you have an M2A and you include a portion of the Indian Point site, let's say where the facility, and you're just keeping, gypsum and peaceful use, then gypsum plant would be a permitted use in that other area as well. So if you wanted to just restrict it to
Yeah.
peaceful use of atomic energy, you could do an M2B.
And I think that's the way to go. We can go all the way up to M2Z
I know.
if we want.
I know. And that's, just to get back, Anthony, why it's taken so long. Part of this is the process of getting feedback from you as the client about what's important and trying to incorporate that as part of the process. So the feedback that you're providing is invaluable as part of the overall process. So
Thank you, Dave.
we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Don't
you.
forget to call your father back.
I will.
Yeah.
That's the first.
Yeah,
thing
I
do.
just
I'm like,
didn't know if it was an emergency before.
No,
That's why I
yeah,
was gonna.
Yeah, if it's an emergency, my sister would be calling me first.
Mm. All right, thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, be well, David. Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. Palmer, you're up next. Discussion on paving.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees.
Use your mic, please.
Oh, yep, sorry. Good evening, Mayor, trustees. At our last meeting, we talked about Church Street. Well, we talked about all the roads that we were in consideration, and it was the conclusion that Church Street was in the worst condition. And we talked about the option
night.
of making it one way from Henry Street to Tate Avenue. We took a look at that. We proceeded on that direction, and actually,
Which one, George, you want to bring up?
oh,
Concept one, concept
oh, the first one.
this one?
That's the first one. Yeah. Well, that's great. Oh, so this right here is, so we looked at a couple things. So we talked about the width of the road, and you can see right near Henry, right near the church.
Great point. There you go.
You can, yeah, if you could zoom in on the top one.
Zoom in. Yeah, just hold on a second.
That's okay. Can everybody see that? Yeah. So by Henry Street and the church,
Right here?
right, so right there, there's the day school, there's the church, the pickup, the drop off of kids seemed to be the major concern that was brought to everyone's attention, that's the congestion point of this area, of this road. So in this option that we looked at. It's a 22-foot wide street. It goes in both directions. And we'd have parking on the church side, a sidewalk that would wrap around the church. There's an existing sidewalk on the other side of the church, wrap it around, bring it down. We can bring it all the way down to Tate Ave and cross the street. And this would allow parents that come in and drop off their kids to pull into that spot, drop them off, and then go out and keep on going. The 22-foot wide, as Anthony mentioned in the last meeting, and we've discussed a couple times, is a little bit narrow. It's a little bit below standard. You like to have 24 feet. That's the desirable width. The mayor brought up too that when people come down this street, people are stopping on both sides, people are crossing. It's a dangerous condition during drop off, that kids are going in front of cars and or crossing between cars. But hopefully the parents are there, you know, but they're not always watching and whatnot. But this, and I talked to Phil Greeley about this. One option with this option is another option, which is in the morning, make it one way going from Henry to Tate. And the way you do that is you put a do not enter sign at Tate. So between, let's say, 7 and 9 a.m., you want to go one way, you put a do not enter sign at the bottom. People can only go one way. They can only drop off. So if you have that double loading or double parking condition, you won't have cars coming in the other direction, making it an issue. And Phil mentioned that this is common situation for schools. You know, it's not done often, but in the situation where there's a school, this is done. And you could do the same thing at night. So you'd have the do not enter sign, you'd say, you know, between 7 and 9, and then below that be between, say, 3 and 5. You can't go in the opposite direction from Tate to Henry. And that's one option with option one. And that would make the residents on here happy, because during the day they could go in either direction. They could go one way or the other. And when I noticed, I was out there, we were TVing the pipes out there, the drainage pipes. It seems people like to use it as a cut through. They're going from Tate, they're going down Church, and then they're making a right onto Henry and going to the other side of the village. So that's what it seemed like was happening in the morning. I wasn't there in the afternoon, but that's what it seemed like people were doing. So that's one option. Now we talk about cost. That one was, option one was about $300,000. 366, and then when you add the curbs, it was another 90. It was about 380. So in talking about the money, I think we had a budget of 300. So we could use, and as part of the discussion tonight is what to do with the grant money.
Stormwater too, or no?
That included the stormwater
Okay,
too.
I will make sure the board knew that. Okay.
So so we could put the other 100,000. The grant people said we could use the money for drainage and curbs. And we have over $100,000 in drainage and curbs. So that $100,000 grant could potentially be included with this work, and this could get done. We're at, let's see, contingency. So if we left, so that we have a total, and we have a contingency in there. So if you keep that in mind, there's a $63,000 contingency. We'd be at like 420. So it's very close. If we put it out to bid, we get our real numbers, and then we know where we're at. So, so option one would fit in the budget if we got the grant, or if you left out, let's say you didn't want to do all the sidewalks all the way down the road, you could do the sidewalks just in front of the church, because the church is really the primary congestion point where people are coming and going. So you could cut out a good chunk of the sidewalks, and that would bring you a little bit below budget, and you'd have, if you numbers came in good, you could do more sidewalk if it was a really good number, or you could do it a grant next year. But we could shorten that up and try to save a little bit of money there.
I agree with what you just said. The first thing you said is the way you should go. I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think you gotta wait to see what the bids come in at, and then you expand the sidewalk.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think you're gonna get bidders to come in where under your number.
Right.
You know what I mean? Hopefully we're, now that we've said
Yeah.
it out loud, but we hope that we get some competitive bidders in there and we can expand at that time.
Right, correct. So, yeah, that's what we did last year. We put out the full scale. We put out what we thought was gonna be 1 million, it came in at 800,000. So we,
The other option, Anthony, if you want to, was to make it a one-way street the whole time. So that was another option.
Yeah.
so,
But
Yeah.
that wouldn't cut down on cost, would it?
no, so all three options land you right
They're
about.
all
Yeah.
about the same
Yeah.
cost.
All
when you
about
break
the
it out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's not,
Same material.
there's,
Yeah.
and the good thing about the first option is that, let's say you don't like, let's say the traffic is not working out. If you looked at option 2 and 3, putting a one-way street, it's adding signage. It's not a big cost one way or the other. So you have some play with all three options. You have basically the same design. You have the curbs, you still have the 30 feet between the school and the parking. It's just organizing that area. That's what it lends itself to.
So George, your parking, see the crosswalk? The crosswalk to Tate, you have parking there?
Uh,
I'll bring it back up. I'll bring it back
yeah.
up.
From the crosswalk to the Tate side, the curb bumps out, the sidewalk comes out there. You have a drop-off zone, I believe that is.
Where were you looking? By
From the
Tate,
crosswalk, oh, wait a minute, that's not in, I'm in the wrong option. I'm on the one-way option.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you go back
yeah, if
to
you,
where the bump out is,
No, that's not it either.
all right, so, well, it's actually where the bump out starts, where you have the no parking triangle there.
Are we talking about on Henry Street?
Church.
No, on Church.
Church.
On Church. Where is the parking from? Can't see that elevation there. From Tate all the way to where the road opens to your drop off.
okay, so see where that hatched area is in the middle?
Yeah,
That's where the parking
Yeah,
ends. So
Anthony.
everything to the
Right here.
right
Right here.
is parking.
yeah.
Everything to the left is a two-way street.
Right here.
So there's no parking on that. That's what I
No,
mean.
there's
There's no
no
parking.
parking.
There's a retaining wall along that.
Because,
And the
yeah,
sidewalk, that sidewalk would be new.
Yes.
and it'd be right up against the wall.
Retaining wall.
Yeah, okay.
What is
So-
the, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm
What is the
thinking that.
current width of that road now? And I know there's no curb, so what is the current width?
So the current width
That's a good question.
is,
22
It's
feet.
wider as you go out towards Henry.
yeah, so it's very close to a little bit more than where the sidewalk is. So the 30 feet that you have between curbs, it's maybe 32 because there's a gutter there. There's a little bit of asphalt there. So the sidewalk is taking up that little bit of area.
Right here, I see 22 feet,
Mhm.
30 feet here. I don't know if you see
Right,
it right here,
and
30
curb to
feet.
curb.
On the Henry side.
On the Henry side, yeah.
And then, yeah, and then with the parking will be a 22-foot
Mhm.
right of way for driving.
So if you put in the curbs and everything and the sidewalk,
Mhm.
so that'll bring it down to 22 feet?
Correct.
That's not going to work.
A 22-foot driving lane.
It'll work. It's gonna be tight though.
It's gonna be tight.
You can't get through now. People, I went through again today very slowly because I
Yeah, be
just wanted
careful
to
going
get
through
this
there,
in
it's a
my
boy.
head. Because the way it is now, you'll never put an emergency vehicle in there. It's not going to happen. And as you're driving down, people are opening their car doors. It's just, right now, just enough to get one car to go through because they're parking on both sides.
You'd have to stop, for this one, you'd have to eliminate the parking up against the wall and in front of the house.
I think
So
that's
you'd only
gonna be
have
a
the
problem.
parking,
On the
church
side of the church.
On the side of the church. That seems to be the most need.
See, so here's my concern.
Parking from there down to Tate.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah,
Either side.
that's right. Period.
Correct.
So that's going to be a problem because that's where they drop people off, the kids off. And so
They shouldn't be.
you're going to have the cars backing up on Henry Street. You see what I'm saying? Waiting for a space to come in. So my thought is, it's my thought, but to keep that 30 feet if possible, and then have it one way, you don't have to worry about a car coming up the other way. I'm just saying, if we cut it down to 22 feet, that's,
If you come up the sidewalk, I think it should be 26 feet on that
Yeah.
side.
Well, you also said that during school hours, there is no left turn or it's a do not enter
Right.
from Tate.
Right. So you wouldn't
During
have,
school hours.
correct. That would be the hybrid of option one. So in the morning, you only have people going one way.
So
if
then
you
it
did-
would work, but the way Teresa's saying is that she's right. It would be a cluster in there and, you know, the people would pull up and drop off. And you know, somebody's gonna come in the other way and park on the opposite side. And then nobody's gonna be able to get through the middle.
That's right. So
Yeah.
that's why you gotta have it.
That's an enforcement issue.
Yeah, it's an enforcement issue. So
Well-
between 7 and 9, you have a do not enter there. And because that's the only time that it's really a problem, right?
And then the afternoon pickup.
And then the
too.
afternoon pickups is the same
In
condition.
my opinion, we should have a police officer over there during drop off and pickup time.
No, the pickup's on the back side, is it?
It's on the Church Street, yeah, the
Your
Church
guess is
Street
as good as
side.
mine.
No, that you pick up the kids on the other, on the other side of the school.
I think both
So,
sides.
yeah, so someone had
It's both
mentioned.
sides. You go down there.
Well, I'm just know when I used to drop them off in the front, my son, and then I used to pick them up in the back. That was how it worked. That
Well,
was the-
you go by there.
But they would park everywhere. so-
Exactly. So
Yeah, their programming could use improvement. So if they had a person out there in the
Yeah.
morning and saying, okay, because that's what I do at my, there's a policeman and there's 6 people out there. And they're like directing the traffic along, like, you get out of your car, you go. And they're just,
it wouldn't be like a Chinese fire drill because you drive
Yes.
by there in the mornings now or even in the afternoons and it's a Chinese. I see Randy back there just nodding his head.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I cringe driving through there.
yeah.
And I think George was trying to put a sidewalk in it, so we could put it someplace safe for the kids to be on.
And I think aesthetically, it's the right thing to do as well. I mean, it'll make the road, but I think, I like the one-way option. I think you just make it one way and
All
that's
the
it.
time?
Full-time one way, because you're gonna get people that are not gonna.
What concept is that one? 2
And
or
it's gonna
3?
it's gonna, I think
Two.
it'll
Uh,
curb a lot of
like
the
we-
mayhem.
Here we
And
go.
then you're right,
Bring that up.
because 5 after 9, they're gonna be like, well, I can
Two.
make it still.
Yeah, and they're gonna pull in there and then there's
Yep,
gonna
I
be an
agree.
issue.
It's just dangerous for the kids. I fear that a kid is gonna dart out between the cars there.
So
And
this,
we're also banking on the school is gonna be open forever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
May not be there next year.
but the one-way option
know,
makes the
it's a
kids
private
have to
school.
cross, right?
Yeah, so in this one, we tried to use get a 5-foot sidewalk, because in front of the wall, it gets very narrow, it gets down to a 4 and then it widens out to a 5 to get to 22 feet. In this one, the problem we see with this one is that when you park on the left-hand side, because they're double
How narrow
parking,
it gets towards the.
the door is going to start hitting the wall. That's going to be one of the problems, because if you're coming up, you're on the left-hand side, so you're getting out of the car and you're going across the street. But when you're going down that whole wall, so you see that little hatched area in front of the wall, so
Mhm.
there'd probably be a 3-foot offset from there, but you still get 14 feet. You'd be 3 feet away from the wall, you can get it open, but it's not the best, but it's what you have. So that's why you see that hatched area there. And then that's one way. And then you have a crossing too, to get that 5-foot wide. So you don't necessarily need to put the 5-foot wide sidewalk there. You could still try to put it on the other side and have the road on the left instead of on the right. So, and then there's the third option. And that was
Yep.
to go
Want
from,
to do the third option?
yeah, there's a third option, which is to go from Tate to Henry. And then we just drew that just to see what it looked like. I mean, we didn't,
Yeah, I think we gotta drop kids on the pasture side, you
right,
know,
so that
we want to come in the other way.
it wants to be the other way. We just drew it up just to
Yeah.
see what it would look like. It doesn't do anything for us. It was just, doesn't help. I mean, it keeps the sidewalk on the other side, but
And it'll keep traffic off of Tate Avenue.
yes,
Because Tate Avenue, if it backs up, it'll back up with Tate.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
correct. So, as opposed to backing, probably rather back up on Henry because it's less, less truck traffic. less
We'd
other
have to
traffic.
restrict commercial traffic during school hours,
Right.
whether it's one way or not.
Mm-hmm.
So the good thing is option one way or the other, you could put the one way, you could actually get the one-way signs now, put them up if you wanted to.
Just to acclimate people, you mean?
Right, just to get people used to it, get
Mhm.
the feel of it. And by the time we do the improvements, they know it's one way and you can see how it's operating. You can get feedback from the public. You can do all that too. So,
Yeah, my personal opinion is I don't want to see it get too narrow, that road.
It's already narrow as you get closer to Tate.
Yeah, if we make
But you
it
know, the
one
good
way.
thing is that on the right side, there's the swale.
Yeah.
And then there's the grassy area so that people can kind of shift over a little bit more.
You could make the sidewalk the same elevation as the road. They've done that in certain places. So the sidewalk looks different, but it's separate from the road, but it's the same grade. So you don't have to step up onto it or step down to it. They've done that before and
Yeah, that's all mountable. Then you
It's-
gotta, yeah, it's gonna have a slope anyway.
well, it would be this, so the asphalt would run and you'd see you'd hit the sidewalk and it'd be at the same elevation as the sidewalk. So it'd just be like a different color. So that's all it's really doing. It's kind of defining where the edge should be and
Mm.
people can get in and out a little easier rather than stopping and then stepping up and then walking. So it's like a whole drop curve instead of a.
And the kids just walk in the middle of the street then.
Yeah,
That's what they're gonna do, people park right against the wall.
well, people park on the sidewalk. That's the
sidewalk.
problem. So.
Yep.
And the signage won't be protected.
Mm.
So, but we can, like I said, we can move forward with putting the signs up and then move forward with the design. One way or the other, it's the same design and the same cost. So, and then we'll see the prices when they come in.
So the board wants to go along with this so you can start getting the bid specs together? Yes?
Yes. I just don't want to make sure, like I said again, I don't want the road to be too tight there. That's all. It's my thought.
I agree with that. I don't want to tighten it up, but I think making it one way will get away with making the sidewalk and, you know, it'll make the restrictions that we want there and it'll make them visible.
I
Okay,
think there's 5 properties on that road
I have to
that
look it up.
would use that to get into their property.
yeah, and there's one person at the end by Tate
Those ones
Oh,
up the
no.
back.
For now.
who,
Oh, I was thinking-
he parks on the street for some reason. He parks in the front on Tate and then he parks on the side, I'm told, once in a while.
Oh.
So
Oh, and-
you might hear from him.
okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
He does,
Well-
he's one of the people that he doesn't have a driveway. It looks like he hops the curb on Tate and parks by the hydrant there. He might be able to get,
Well, he parks on tape,
he parks on Tate, but sometimes he's got the stairs to
correct.
the side, so he sometimes parks on the side.
The
But
house in the corner.
he might be the
Oh.
only one that might be an issue.
Mhm.
But, all right, we can move forward with,
Mhm.
what we have.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Any other questions for George while he's here?
Yeah, we have want to talk about state grants?
Oh, yes.
Randy, why don't you come, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, Randy, come up too, because we're gonna talk about the
Please. Randy.
possible grants.
So the public knows there's a $100,000 grant that we used for years to paint the pavilion. They're no longer allowing us to do that. So there's 3 options that the village can choose from. These grants are from Harcum. One is, we talked about it quickly, replace the generator on Blakely Avenue. The next one is stormwater infrastructure, which our engineer was interested in. And the other is a stake bed, which we quickly talked about last week. And we have Randy Hesselgrave here with us this evening. He is our assistant foreman at the highway department. And I'm kind of leaning toward the stake bed because it's a multi-purpose vehicle here for the village. But Randy, you can take over from here.
Good afternoon, Mayor and the Board. We were approached a couple weeks ago from Marcus regarding this grant, and he wanted us to look into a couple options, what we could do with it for equipment-wise, vehicles. What we came up with right now is we're kind of having an issue with our dumpsters in the back. We don't think they look very good. We would like to get rid of those. We have a metal dumpster back there. We have an air conditioner dumpster and an e-waste dumpster.
Randy, just tell the public what their location of those dumpsters are, in case people don't know.
Those dumpsters are located right behind our garage, right behind the salt shed next to the ball field there. And then the other one is in between the playground and the pavilion. So kind of where camp would walk from the pavilion to the playground. So we would like to eliminate those. But I'd given you a little
Randy, I'm
picture.
sorry, that's right. Why did those dumpsters come about?
Oh, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to get into that.
Okay.
Brookfield had closed a couple months ago. And that we probably do. We have a 6-foot bed right now with a lift, and we could do anywhere from 3 to 6 trips to Brookfield here in Montrose, no problem. But I don't think that would be too efficient of an option to be running down to Elmsford 6, 7 times with a smaller truck. So this truck here would give us the option to do one load, maybe two, worst case scenario, on a heavy load. But that would eliminate our dumpsters and we'd be able to bring everything down there kind of in one shot. Other options I had given you guys, anything recreational, parades, we could break down those sides. We could use it as a viewing stand, you know, something like that for St. Patrick's Day or any other parades that we have like that. You know, putting out all the horses for the parades, and then a couple other options would be all our grass cutting equipment. We could load. We're going to put one of the things we fitted it for was a bigger lift gate. So we would like to put all our mowing equipment on there. We could do that all in one shot and be pretty efficient with that. I put a picture on the second page for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea.
And Randy, the price for this equipment would be?
Right now it's sitting around $94,000, so just under 100.
This,
So,
Yep.
and that's the last page, kind of the breakdown,
okay.
everything we got. That's from Robert Green.
Hmm.
And that's over contract.
Yes.
So,
That's what?
over contract.
Oh,
So that gives you the board three options. I know the last time we talked about different options. We talked about DPW equipment that we can use. So you have three options. The state wants the village to make a decision sooner than later. Because we're the only government so far that has not finalized how that money to be used.
We're just having a tough time how to decide how to spend 100,000,
Yeah.
but we're going to make that decision.
Okay, so I wanted Randy to explain that to you, and you have the other two options.
Yeah, the other thing too with the lift gate on the back of this is we're in the process of getting another truck right now. They're waiting for the chassis. That would have a lift gate. I would talk to Robert Green about possibly eliminating that. And it would be another option for us to have another lowboy on the road instead of taking it up for a metal pickup or something like that. So at the end of the day, we'd have two lowboys out there on the road, plus this truck if we were doing catch basin work or any other work like that. So
Yeah. Like I said, a multi-purpose vehicle.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
So what's the board's thoughts, since we still have George here, about George's thoughts were for drainage, for stormwater? So I personally am leaning towards the truck. I'm sorry, George.
Okay.
I don't know what else the board feels, so we can give Marcus a decision today.
I'm leaning towards the truck. Sorry, George.
No, I think I'm perfectly fine with going with the truck. It's about time we get these guys outfitted down there with the equipment they need. So
There you have it. I'm with you though, George.
Thank you.
sorry, George.
There's always so much to do,
I
you
just,
know?
I mean, the truck, it's a good idea. Basically, for the one idea that you did say, Randy, was for the catch basin repair, you can put pallets of cement and block on it. I think you're going to destroy it though by putting all kinds of refrigerators and washers and dryers. And I think you should get yourself a hook lift for that. That's what we should do. And get a small dumpster that is our dumpster that stays in the yard. And you back up to it and hook onto it and you go dump it whenever you have to. That's what that's for, not a rack body. Okay, a rack body like that is for transporting pallets. Okay, not to dump material. I'm sure you know this. If you had the money for a hook lift, then that's exactly what that's designed for. And you could drop the box, people could put the stuff in. You don't even have to load it in yourself. This you have to load on your manpower has to load it on themselves. People could throw it into the box, you could go dump the box, back up to it, hook it, right?
Wait, come to the mic or that way. Yeah.
Go to the
I mean,
podium, yeah.
if a small hook lift was 160,000 and we put the 100 grand towards it,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that works that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But the rack body, if you're gonna put a plow on it, okay, and you're gonna get a 4x4, because you can put pallets on it. It's a pallet truck. That's all it's for. The lift gates on it to roll pallet jacks on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you're gonna if you want a hook lift, I'm down with that.
And that's one thing we have priced out in the past. down at the garage, because we feel that we can throw a number of accessories on the back of that for chipping, anything like that for that hook lift.
Well,
Tons
the
of
hook lift,
boxes.
you can get a flatbed, you can get
That's-
a
yeah,
two
we're-
10-yarders, and you don't need anything after that.
We agree, yeah.
I like this,
This
I
was,
like this discussion.
Well, it's
Can you,
obvious.
can you
Not to me.
do, like, when you buy trucks, they have the seal on the bottom, the coverage, like when we bought our, the other village vehicles, there's a liner.
Yeah.
Can you buy a liner
So on the
that,
back- on the
to
body or
protect the
underneath?
bottom
Yeah,
of it?
And that was in this package.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Anti-corrosion protection and undercoat.
Yeah, but you got a wood floor on that bottom.
Yeah.
It's a wood floor.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can
Okay.
do to protect it.
Yeah, that's it. I thought you could get the plastic, like inserts that we use for the trucks. That was my question.
But you have to drag the material out, like the refrigerator, you gotta drag it
Yeah.
out, so you're gonna disrupt anything that's on the floor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we-
But a
we-
hook body, a hook lift is a metal floor.
Yeah.
Just dump it out.
And that's what we had in Chrome. We had the metal floor and everything, so that would be an option.
So in
So
view
can we,
of what
can't
Anthony
can't we
is
spec
saying.
out one of those then?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, in view of what Anthony said, now he caught my attention. What do you think about that?
For the hook lift?
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. I mean,
versus the truck.
you're looking over $100,000 for that. So, I mean, we were just trying to keep it under 100.
You were trying to
That's
stay
kind of-
within budget.
That's kind
But
of.
let's do it the smart way.
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about that down there. Like, we wonder, hey, would the village throw in another 50,000, $80,000 for it? But,
Yeah.
That would obviously.
But
be
it's a
considered.
multi-purpose vehicle, and it defeats a
Okay.
lot more than what you're doing with a rack
I
body.
agree.
So then we got some
So then we
exploring
need
to
to
do.
revisit
Oh,
that.
We've already
Give us
visited.
numbers.
I was on the phone,
So you already looked at the.
yeah, the one by Sprout Brook.
Jim
That's
Reed?
all.
Jim Reed.
Yes, that's all
Yeah.
they specialize on. I was on the phone with them last week, so.
So could you get back to us this week? Because I don't
Yeah.
know when the cutoff is with the
I can get back
state.
to
And then we can discuss that on next
Okay,
Tuesday.
we'll do it, yeah, next Tuesday.
Yeah.
That would be.
Did they
great.
price it out, Randy?
No, because I was more leaning towards this and.
Trying to keep it all.
He said-
You were trying to stay within
Yeah, He
budget.
said, once you
So-
look for a hook lift, call me
I
back.
got a question
Okay.
for you, Randy. You got that truck, you put the box, in, the dump truck, right? So you could make a box
Hmm.
that is on a flatbed, and in this fall, you could just back up to and hook it up,
Hmm.
right? And
Yes.
it doesn't take up your dump truck.
Nope.
Your dump truck's freed up for the
Yeah,
fall.
and that's what we're looking to
Yeah.
do, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's so many uses you could do.
I love that. That's good.
I like what you said.
Thank you, Anthony, because,
I mean, like I said, we've been talking about that for months, we talking to Tony.
So let's get
Yeah,
that, let's get
let's-
that price together.
let's do it the smart way instead of trying to work around a number. Let's,
Yeah.
let's
Mhm.
spec it to what we
Yeah.
need and what we think is the
Okay.
best use and go that route.
Absolutely.
And I
All
mean,
right, George, you're out again.
Yeah, you're out again.
Now Anthony said you're out.
George is in a no-win
You're out. George.
situation here tonight.
And I do want to bring up to the board too, I know we're trying to keep everything within a certain budget number. Don't forget, we got money in fund balance left over that, if you got a priority of stormwater or something else that you need to get done, I don't want you to limit for the benefit of this community. If we need to do $100,000 for a storm drain that's collapsing, we have money in fund balance, so we can do that too. So I don't
Okay.
want you guys to limit it yourself to this stuff. And then we need another $80,000 for that truck. We got money in fund balance to do that.
It just makes sense.
I love that. Just like the backhoe, when you brought up the idea of the backhoe, that was great.
Yeah, that is good.
So
Mhm.
if we have 100,000, what are the thoughts of painting the pavilion, getting that done?
We could do it separately, absolutely. We just take money out of the fund
We
balance.
just need to get another price on that.
We had a price from. the
Building
guy-
empires.
Yes, good memory.
Yeah.
Yes,
The guy that did the stairs.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a very good price. Yes.
Yeah, we put it out and got him.
But we have to go out to bid, that's all.
We'd have, because it's over the.
It's over the
35,000.
35,000. So.
yeah, he did the fire escape.
Yeah,
Yes.
did a good job.
Yeah, so we definitely could do that. So again, we can talk about capital projects. I know the budget season is coming up pretty quickly,
Yeah, it is.
as everybody knows. So
Mhm.
as soon as we get the working on the budget, we can do a capital and we could talk about how you want to use some of the fund balance money. Okay?
Okay.
All right,
Sounds
great.
good.
Thank you.
Very good. All right,
Thanks,
George,
George.
thank you.
Thanks, George.
See you next time.
Thank you.
See you later, George. Thanks.
Okay, the
Appreciate it.
next is the discussion on the dog license. I have been in contact with the Department of Agriculture and also with Supervisor Becker. We have kind of had a discussion on what it would cost. Originally, one of the agreements was $4,000 a year. I spoke to the chief. He said there's 3 to 5 times a year we need dog services. We haven't completely finished the negotiation, but Stephanie, they said the attorneys would send you something this week. Hopefully, we can vote on it on next Tuesday.
This
And
is
then
for
I'll-
use of their dog control officer?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, but the licensing is also, you're going to
Yes,
discuss the
and
licensing.
we're
okay.
going to transfer the licensing over to the town of Cortland
Mhm.
also, and we don't get that many
No.
licenses, so this way they
Yeah, so
handle
I-
that whole thing.
So
One
next
stop shop.
Tuesday, I'll give you a sample local law that you can schedule for, what's
Okay,
that, March, April,
okay.
to change the licensing.
It'll be May, but reorganization meeting in April, right, Cindy?
Oh,
Yeah, so it'll be in May.
Well,
So
we have
May,
a,
the
we have an
licenses
April
will start
1st
being-
meeting that we can discuss that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have April's a funny month
Yeah.
with meetings, so there's a lot going on in April.
okay, so the dog control officer, they're going to be who's contacting me? Not, they're not contacting me.
No, the attorney. The attorney is, Tom, will send you,
Mhm.
what they feel is their agreement, and we'll
Okay.
discuss it probably next Tuesday.
Okay,
And so that we can get that moving forward and get that wrapped up and, ta-da,
Perfect.
ta-da. So
okay.
kind of worked out good. Okay, good. So for the March 4th board meeting, we have consider a motion to approve the volunteer firefighters that have met the required 50 points for the service award program, the LoSAP program that the village provides. Also, we're going to be considering a motion for an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Cortland, which we do all the time regarding shared use of equipment and bidding by town purchasing director. And the other thing, we still have a public hearing open. So that would be the parking
Yep.
that we discussed last time. I know we were all over the place at one point, but so that public hearing will continue
On Tuesday, next
on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, next Tuesday, yep, at the board meeting. What is that, March 5th? Is that March 5th?
Yes.
Yeah, March 5th. So we, I don't know what kind of resolution we've come to with that. But I
Hmm.
guess we can hash that out next
Mhm.
week.
That's why we have public hearings.
Correctamundo. I just didn't know if anybody had any comments to make this evening.
No, I did write down problem areas that I think,
Okay.
you asked me to take a look around.
Thank you.
And I came up with First and Tate, Fourth and Tate, Lake and Tate, Kings Ferry and Tate, Henry and Second, and Church and Henry, which we just spent how much time on.
Yeah,
And that's before I think that's that's a thoroughfare I think we need to look at more than Lindsay and Westchester for now.
right.
But I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are.
Right. And then also on the list, because we're going to need, we're going to have you do a list in writing because Stephanie's going to need the information. Our highway department's going to need the information. And also Henry in the top of third, because Chris Mason had mentioned that. So we want to address,
I thought he
You know,
had
the-
mentioned Henry in the top of second.
I think that too. I think there were both intersections that were a problem. The group home that it's with the cars parked on that side, you can't take a left.
You know,
coming
and then
up
we
there.
have the other issue if we do decide to move forward is, and I'm in agreement with it. I'm not a big favor of putting signs up all over the place. So we have to figure out, that's going to be a hurdle.
Yeah,
If I may, just,
Yes.
you probably will need some no parking signs, but if you do a stop sign where you're getting to an intersection, under New York State traffic law, they can't park 20 feet before that anyway. So that might take care of some of it. It won't when you're going up here, right? Because stop
Well, they
here.
do now
you're not
anyway,
gonna-
so you have to enforce that.
Yeah, but that's stop signs rather than, so if you're thinking about the no parking signs everywhere, yeah, at the corner, wherever you can, and you put a stop sign, you don't need all these signs, no parking here at the corner. There will be some that you do, because you'll see as you
But how do we
navigate it.
enforce it?
The police enforce it.
Well, if nobody knows the DOT laws, then they're gonna say, well, where'd you get that from? DOT. And then the police are gonna have to.
Yeah.
Enforce it. I mean, I know they're gonna have to enforce it, but it's gonna be a hard sell.
They know that.
Oh, they do know that. Okay, well,
Yeah.
then that's their job then.
And I think they knew all along, but there wasn't stop signs and the traffic light was hanging from the middle. And under the state law, it has to be at each corner and eyesight, it's ridiculous, eye level, so that people don't miss it. So the stop signs, I know that Shane knows because, right, we've talked about that.
Mm.
And the no parking people, I mean, there'll be a no parking sign, don't do it. And then they
Well, we
enforce
have,
it.
we have the ability now to paint, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the painting won't count. You have to have a sign.
No, I know.
Yeah.
With the sign, there comes a stop bar.
Correct.
And the stop bar will initiate the 20 feet mark.
Correct.
As well as the stop sign.
Right.
Yep.
So,
And people won't know at first, obviously, because especially here, because everybody's been able to park wherever. So you might want to just
There'll be
tell your
warnings.
police
They'll do
officer, if you have a
some
warning or
warnings
two for the
Yep.
same car, you know, give them a
Yep.
chance.
Mhm.
Because,
They're ready.
they are?
Yep, they're ready.
All right,
Well,
good.
we'll talk about it. So,
Yeah, you'll
we'll
give me the
continue the
exact
public
street
hearing.
and then I'll do the.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Also, I don't know what the board's thoughts are. I got an email from, somebody from Con Edison. What the heck is his name? Jim? And Con Edison will pick up the cost for fast EV chargers, no cost, electrifying the municipal fleet, and a charging destination, which could potentially generate additional revenue. So
so wait a
I
minute.
don't know.
The board said no already a while back.
No, I know, but if we can get free equipment, free vehicles that are electric, because it also says electrifying the municipal fleet.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure if you want to make a call
I
to
can
this
make a call.
Jim
Yeah.
and
that's-
see if it's just solely the EV chargers, or are
Yeah.
they talking about
Public.
equipment
Yeah.
also?
Yep. Mhm.
They're probably talking about the hookup,
Yeah.
you know,
Of
to
course, they
the
want to give
building.
you it for free.
Right.
They're gonna energize it
Right.
and bang you over the head.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering why eventually we might not have enough power. There you go.
Oh,
So,
and they're putting subways, they're going to electrify the subway,
Yeah.
the Metro North trains too. They just announced that today.
I don't know where all this energy will come
And
from.
the grid is gonna
Yeah.
collapse.
Yeah, so, yeah. Marcus and I are meeting with Verizon next Wednesday to talk about the renewal. You know, our agreement like we did with Optum.
Mhm.
So that's a half-hour meeting, just to get started with that. I'm trying to see where the rest of my little to-do list. I want to relook again at the bridge coming into Buchanan with Metro North. I know, Marcus, you had taken some pictures and I know you have contacts, so if you can reach back out to them. And I'm thinking they thought there was this big gigantic bridge of, you know, like the Tappan Zee Bridge or something.
So
Notice I
it's-
said Tappan Zee Bridge.
Yeah, they say it's not a priority.
Well, okay, that's not a priority, but can we potentially do it ourselves?
Yep.
You know,
Oh, okay.
we'd have to coordinate a few things because it's 9A, but you know, maybe we could do it because it's starting
Then
to,
you got to pay the MTA fee. He knows
Or-
what that number
There
is.
is,
That is an unbelievable
you're all,
number.
everybody who goes near it is gonna have to take an MTA track
Yeah. They're not
license
gonna let-
agreement.
and you know, the funny thing
crazy.
is.
And you
with
gotta pay a
this,
fee,
it's-
which is
It's, the
humongous.
track is where the painting needs to be done is
Doesn't matter.
below
As
the
long as you-
track.
and
Same
anywhere
thing
near the
down in
bridge.
Mamaroneck, and they
Really?
wouldn't let.
They own that
wouldn't let them
bridge,
do it
they
in
protect
Mamaroneck.
it.
I had to deal,
That's so much for that idea then.
I
Yeah.
had to deal with other
It would
places.
probably cost $1 million just to paint it in the end.
We have to
Yes.
get DOT
Mhm.
Yeah.
involved, MTA.
Yeah.
You gotta see the one in Mamaroneck. The trucks constantly hit it and it's
Ridiculous.
constantly
I
scraped.
agree.
And
it
they
doesn't
won't
need to
let
get
they
painted.
won't let,
Yeah, I
you know
don't
which one I'm
how-
talking about?
how That's gonna happen, yeah.
They banged the hell out of it.
My God, there's another knucklehead stuck underneath the railroad trestle again.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they didn't see it.
There's signage all over the place. It tells you truck route. It just,
Um,
it's all the time.
Oh, darn, George left. All right. I wanted to ask him about something else, but that's okay. Today, we received at the village and our historian was there from Jerry Hughes. We received some historical Indian Point things. And I was in the historical room and it's starting to get real small in there. We have a lot of different historical artifacts and things. So I just want to mention to the board, possibly if we can get some other type of upright cabinetry and see if we can get some of the things off the wall. I know the historian had mentioned something about having a different type of a display for the pictures that actually you can like look through. So it's kind of like a cabinet, but you can flip through it. So maybe next week I'll bring one of the things, but one of the things that was really interesting was actually somebody's permit to operate the plant. And another thing was the actual manual for the Unit 1, our first plant. So it was pretty cool. And postcards, I mean, he had all kinds of stuff. So it was pretty interesting. And George Boyle was happy with that. Let's see. I know there's something else. Like I said, we are going into exec session to discuss a few things. But that's all I have for right now. So no to the EV chargers. I'll give you that information.
I have it.
Oh, you have for him? Okay, good, good. Let's see if it has anything to do with equipment. If not,
Yep.
Not interested.
No problem.
Okay, so Dan, what do you have for us this evening?
We're meeting again. St. Patrick's Day Parade is the 16th, 2 p.m. If you have cable vision, do not pay attention to what they're putting on the channel because they have March 10th. That's the incorrect date. It's the 16th, 2 p.m.
Okay. Anthony, what do you have for us tonight?
Not much. I just want to talk about one thing that I heard in the public, and I need to get this cleared up because it's important to me. There's been a misconception going around this community that we have handpicked somebody for jobs in this, and I am not going to be a part of that. I was accused of that last year, and I will not be a part of it this year. Okay, we're running, the general foreman position is an open slot. We have been interviewing people and everybody had a chance to put their applications in and or their resumes in and we've interviewed. I have not interviewed. I was not a part of that. I would like to be a part of it though. As you can see tonight, I intervened a little bit with Randy in things that are in my knowledge, especially when it comes to the DPW. I was not able to attend because I was in Florida. I would have liked to attend, but I was not able to. So hopefully everybody in the village understands that we are doing this the proper way. I have received communication saying that we are not. And I was accused of this last year, hiring family and friends, and I won't be accused of it again. This is going to be done the right way, and we will properly go through the channels and hire the right man that's for the job. And I hope that my colleagues up here agree with me.
Well, I agree with you 100%. First of all, I would never handpick anyone through family or friendship. Plus, if I wanted to handpick someone, I couldn't because I don't know any of the candidates. But I take pride in hiring someone or in at least providing feedback. So I agree with you 100%. We are not handpicking anyone.
And I always like to think that after we interview, or in this case, the three candidates are known to several of the board members. I'd like to think that the board will, the majority will pick the most qualified person for the position.
I agree with that too.
I just want to add to that. I'm in agreement with, I strongly believe the right person will be hired. And I'm all about following a process. What I was upset about was I was almost not able to attend the interviews. Okay. To me, everybody should have had a chance to be at the interview. We could have done it another day.
So the majority of the board was here for the interviews. Anthony, two of the people, and three of them. So, I mean, you have the opportunity to speak to any of them, set up an appointment or whatever to have a conversation.
That's not really the way things should be done. I specifically said to you in an email that I was not available 2 weeks ago, and you disregarded it multiple times.
I think I saw it once after you had mentioned it. I didn't see it the one
No,
time.
I have all
I
the
do
emails here.
apologize.
I have
So-
all the emails and,
Okay, good. I'm
but
sorry.
we made accommodations for
sorry,
somebody,
because-
but it wasn't me.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
It's a fact. It's not how I feel.
Sorry
It's
you
a
feel
fact.
that way.
It's factual and I have the emails to prove it.
Okay. So are there any?
Did you not make me the liaison for the DPW?
Yes.
Why did
The
you do that?
liaison, so I'm glad you brought that up
Oh,
because
okay.
I think there's some confusion on the board of what a liaison is. It's a go-between. That's all it is. Whoever's a liaison to any of the departments does not run that department or control the department or anything like that. It's a communication. So from for example, the highway department,
Mm.
if they have an issue, they want to talk about something, they want to bring something up to the board, something they want to do. Then they would discuss that with that person and then that person would bring it back to the board. That's all that is.
So just communication. So I haven't
It's
communicated with
communication.
Scoop?
I'm not saying you haven't communicated with Scoot. I know you've been down to the highway department at different times.
Wow.
So I just want to ask, as a liaison, when you're working with a group of people, if they're on the wrong track, you're not supposed to veer them towards the right track. You're just supposed to hear what they're saying and then bring it back to the board? Because I've never worked as a liaison like that. And if that's the case, then why have us be liaisons? Why not tell each of these committees if they have an issue to come before the board? Because that's really what you're saying. Right now, what you're saying is we should serve as their mouthpiece.
Absolutely.
And I
You should
disagree
be-
with that. That's
you
not, in my
should-
opinion, what a liaison
Once
should
again, I'm
do.
sorry you feel that.
Then we
way.
won't be productive.
Well, then I.
So when I say here that I have nothing to report, please know that now I will be taking a different role. I will be attending meetings, listening, and just bringing back information. If there's nothing to bring back, then I have nothing to report. And I disagree with your way of leadership with that.
Oh, I'm sorry you feel that way.
Oh, I don't feel
But we are not supposed to be running that meeting. You're supposed to be observing, listening to what their thoughts are. If they have a question of how to go forward, or if there's a question for the board, then it's a go-between.
But it's
That's what it
never
is. It's a
about the
go-between.
board. It's sometimes about the village, what we can do to improve activities within the village. So it's nothing that we would need to bring back. And I'll speak about the recreation committee. When I took off my trustee hat and stood by the podium, I was yelled at by the mayor and told to sit down. That's not how I operate. If I'm on a committee, I want to make a difference. I want to be part of that committee. So if I'm supposed to sit there and hear it and bring it back for me, then don't put me on that committee. Let them come here and talk to the board.
I will take that to heart. So
Good.
when I do the reorganization, I will listen to your comment and I will take you off of the recreation committee.
I didn't say to take me off. I said, if you're going to change the scope of the liaison to just listen to what they have to say and bring it back to the board, then we shouldn't be a mouthpiece. Then just tell the committees to come before the board and bring their information to us. Bottom line.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
then look at the definition of what that is. And
I worked
I did
with
not.
committees for 34 years. Trust me. Maybe you need to go back and
Well,
reevaluate that definition.
I will get the definition of, once again,
bring mine.
of that. That's good. And then maybe we'll
Listen,
come to some
Teresa,
type of
I'm not gonna
consensus.
argue with you. You share your
Yes.
perspective
Yeah,
and I'm
well,
sharing
that
mine.
was
But
my
why does it
thought.
always have to come to this with
But
you?
That was my thought,
But I disagreed with you. That's all, and I shared why.
Setting up the recreation committee, it was my idea to set the recreation.
It was
committee
your idea,
And
but you never shared that you just wanted me to sit there and hear them out. You never said that. What bothered you was when I got up
You-
there with them.
You know what bothered me? I'll be really honest with you. What bothered me is that, and we're going to finish this up because we've got a lot of the work to do this evening. When you got up, I was looking forward to new people in the village, getting involved in the village with the recreation committee. This group was an excited group, and I wanted to see them take charge of this committee and speak for themselves. So I was just saying to you that evening, Awilda, let them, this is their committee, let them speak. I wanted them to give the results of the committee.
But what you
So,
did
of the
not
survey.
know.
Sorry.
You were at
what-
every meeting.
Yes.
It's
And did not-
Teresa's turn to get roasted tonight. Thank
No,
you
it's-
all.
You have
Thank
to
you.
allow us to have an
Yes.
opinion.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
to
You
disagree
always
with
have an
yours.
opinion.
And
There
to
we go.
disagree with
Fine.
yours.
This is a republic.
Here
This
goes
is
the
a,
bullying speech.
no. Oh, I got a good story about bullying. Do you want to hear that tonight,
I've
guys?
heard it all.
Oh, no, you haven't heard the one.
I've
This is
heard
really
it.
good.
I've heard it all.
No, you haven't heard the one
I got
about
it in the
here
mail
village.
last year. I got it. Believe me, I got it.
All right, so you're forcing me to do the bullying speech. I did say we have a lot of other village things. So, as a little girl, I went to school here in this building, and it was from kindergarten to fourth grade. It was a beautiful little school. was the first time in my life that I was bullied. And it continued. I'm sorry, I know it's a boring story, but it's the first time in my life I was bullied. And my bullying continued. People bullied me for the rest of my life. So I'll never forget that. It really left an impression on me, the bullying. And here I am all these years later in the same building. Can you imagine being bullied again?
Well, I disagree that you're being bullied, and
I
I'm sorry
would
that you're
have to- I would have
subjected
to
to this.
disagree.
Okay, time
I would have
out.
to
You know
disagree
what,
with
guys?
This is
We are
ridiculous.
here to do village business.
Yeah.
We got sidetracked. I was getting roasted this evening. I know I'm a little chilly, but I'm feeling warmer now. Thank you very much for the warm and fuzzies that I've received. So we have a lot of work to do this evening, village business, and that's why we're here. And we have to go into executive session if there are not any other comments from the floor. Would anyone like to say anything? No? Oh, Eileen, thank you. Thank you, Eileen. We count on you, Eileen.
Oh, good Lord. My grandson couldn't be here tonight. He loves this kind of
Aw.
action. He's
We
so
love having
bored when
him.
it's not this way. But my question has to do with the election, the sham of an election that occurred February 11th. Did any of you know about that at the meeting in the beginning of the month?
Was that the county
Yes.
election? Yeah.
We all voted
I
in
didn't know
it.
about it until 3 days beforehand when there was early voting.
Okay, so who did know about it? Anybody? Anthony. I'm disappointed that nobody said anything.
didn't know about it too?
I'm
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
saying
Poor
just you.
Teresa.
Didn't know about it? I mean.
No, I'm just saying that at the end of a
it
meeting,
disappointed me. It's all over. the
only if
news.
you're the only one
That's
that
how I
knew
found
about
out,
it.
'cause I read the newspaper.
Well, I read William Mann's post on, you're
Oh.
from Neighbors or Buchanan, Montrose. And I sent word out. I told Michael, my son, to send word out because he knows a lot of people. When I came in at 6 o'clock at night, there were 99 people who voted in my district. That's pathetic. My son went, he was the second person, and it was 8 o'clock over at the library.
Wow.
So all I'm
Yeah.
saying is, and I did ask the village when I called up on Monday to inquire about this, because I really wasn't sure, because nothing really came in the mail. But I was disappointed. If any of you did know, no, I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming
I don't know
you.
when, if it was before a meeting or after a meeting or how many days I did know, but I'm sure everybody knew. I'm sorry you didn't know. If I would have known that you wanted to know,
No, I did know.
I
but
would've
I
voted.
was looking for you to put that information out to the village residents. With 99 people at 6 o'clock at night, 6:30, when I came to vote, I asked them.
What's usually the protocol? I'm new to this. So what's
No,
usually
I
the
mean, I don't even know if
It's
you
at the
guys
county
knew.
election, so
Pardon
it
me?
was everywhere.
I don't watch Channel 12. I found out from Facebook. But I'm just saying that that should have either been put on our Facebook page or don't forget to vote on our sign that's, rotating. I'm not blaming anybody on the board if you knew. That's not my purpose. I just expected the board to know and say something, don't forget to go out and vote. Because you'll say it in March, don't forget to go out and vote when we have our elections in March. So that was just my.
Well, this was an emergency election. right?
Special
It was a
election.
Special
It wasn't an
election.
emergency.
It was in a
election.
special
It
election.
was a special election.
I'm sorry. Okay, you're right.
It wasn't an emergency.
No. It was a special election that I knew about, only me.
Well,
And so you should have said something.
And I should have put it out on the sign because I know how to operate that sign.
no, Anthony, don't be defensive. I'm
I'm
not
not being
blaming
defensive,
you.
but it was all
I'm-
over the newspapers.
No, it wasn't in the newspaper. What newspaper?
It was in Channel 12 News. It was in the Journal. It was everywhere. It was on Facebook. It was everywhere.
Where was it on Facebook?
Christine Schulte wasn't on Facebook.
Well, I don't
Yeah.
go on Christine Salty's Facebook page, and she didn't pop up.
So
on
are
my
you a member of
Facebook.
any kind of a conservative
I just-
Republican things
No,
on
I just
Facebook?
told you I found out from William Mann on
Well,
Facebook
then,
because he put it out there.
you
That's
should-
the only way I knew.
Who? Yeah, he did.
I don't get that either. So I.
All right, so I think the thing to consider here is whenever there is an election, whether it's a special one or not, that we should provide information
Yeah,
on Facebook and to the digital board.
Put it on the
I-
digital
okay.
board.
Okay, thank you.
okay,
Thanks,
because
Ed.
otherwise there would have been maybe 101 people. that voted.
Instead of the 99.
Okay, any other comments from the floor? No? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and negotiation. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great Buchanan day.